You know that feeling when you finally achieve something you've worked your entire life for? That moment when everything clicks into place and you think, I made it? Well, let me tell you about the day I stood on the deck of my brand new lakefront property, watching the sunset paint the water gold and crimson, completely unaware that I was about to enter a nightmare that would make every homeowner's worst fears look like a walk in the park. My name is Marcus, and I'm a 42-year-old software engineer from Seattle. For 15 years, I'd been grinding away in the tech industry, living in a cramped apartment, saving every penny I could. My dream wasn't a mansion or a sports car. It was simple. I wanted a quiet place by the water where I could hear the lapping of waves instead of traffic, where my daughter Emma could grow up catching fireflies instead of staring at screens, and where my wife Sarah and I could finally breathe after years of the corporate rat race. When I first saw the listing for 847 Clearwater Drive, my heart literally skipped a beat. The photos showed a charming two-story cottage with white siding and blue shutters, nestled among towering pines. But it was the backyard that sold me. A private dock extending into Crystal Lake, a pristine body of water so clear you could see the fish swimming 15 feet down. The listing price was $485,000, which was actually within our budget after selling our Seattle condo and combining it with our savings. It felt like destiny. The real estate agent, a cheerful woman named Patricia, met us at the property on a perfect Saturday morning in late May. "You're going to love this community," she said, her smile almost too bright. Lakeshore Estates is one of the most sought-after neighborhoods in the county. The HOA keeps everything absolutely pristine. I should have paid more attention to that last sentence. I should have asked more questions, but I was too busy watching Emma's face light up as she spotted a family of ducks gliding across the water. Sarah squeezed my hand, and I saw tears of joy in her eyes. This was it. This was home. The house itself was perfect. Recently renovated kitchen, hardwood floors throughout, a master bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. But the real treasure was outside. The property included 150 feet of lakefront access, a private beach area, and that beautiful dock. Patricia explained that the lake was shared among the 47 properties in Lakeshore Estates, each with their own section of shoreline. The HOA fee is $350 a month, Patricia mentioned casually as we walked the property line. That covers common area maintenance, the clubhouse, and lake management. Lake management? I asked. Oh, you know, keeping the water clean, maintaining the ecosystem, preventing invasive species, standard stuff. The HOA board is very professional. They've been managing this community for over 20 years. I nodded, barely listening. I was already imagining summer mornings fishing from that dock with Emma, evening boat rides with Sarah, maybe even learning to paddleboard. The HOA fee seemed reasonable for what we were getting. We put in an offer that same day, full asking price, minimal contingencies. We were competing with 2 other families, and I wasn't going to lose this dream to negotiation tactics. The seller accepted within 48 hours. 1 month later, after the fastest closing process I'd ever experienced, we had the keys. Moving day was chaos, the wonderful kind. Emma claimed the bedroom with the window seat overlooking the lake. Sarah spent hours planning where furniture would go. I just kept walking out to that dock, unable to believe this was real. Our neighbors seemed friendly too. An older couple, the Hendersons, lived to our left and came over with homemade cookies. "Welcome to paradise," Mr. Henderson said with a warm smile. "We've been here 8 years. Best decision we ever made." That first month was everything I'd dreamed of. We bought kayaks and spent evenings paddling around the lake. Emma made friends with other kids in the neighborhood, and they'd swim off our dock until the sun went down. Sarah started a small garden and talked about maybe getting chickens. I set up my home office in the spare bedroom, positioned perfectly to gaze at the water during video calls. The HOA seemed invisible at first, just an automatic monthly payment. We received a welcome packet with rules and regulations. No boats with motors over 25 horsepower, quiet hours after 10 p.m., dock maintenance requirements, standard community stuff. There was also information about monthly board meetings, held the first Tuesday of each month at the clubhouse. I glanced through it but didn't think much about attending. I'm not really a joiner, and everything seemed to be running smoothly. But then July came, and with it my first real interaction with the Lakeshore Estates HOA board. Marcus should describe his first morning waking up in his new home, the sunrise over the water, coffee on the dock, the sound of loons calling, make the audience feel his joy. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I'd actually made it. This was it. This was everything. Introduce the HOA subtly but ominously. Marcus receives his first letter, standard welcome package, then mention the HOA president, Victoria Ashford, a woman in her late 50s with perfectly coiffed silver hair and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. At the welcome meeting, she's overly friendly, almost theatrical. "We're so pleased to have new blood in Lake Haven. We maintain very high standards here, Marcus. Very high. Build tension gradually. Small things start happening. A letter about his dock being 2 inches too wide, a citation because his mailbox was the wrong shade of black. Another resident, elderly Thomas Rodriguez, stops by one evening. Son, I've been here 20 years. Let me give you advice. Don't make waves with Victoria. I've seen good people lose everything trying to fight her." End this section with Marcus brushing off the warning. He's confident, paid his dues, owns his property outright. What could possibly go wrong? Close with him on his dock at sunset, completely unaware of the storm brewing. "I should have listened to Thomas. I should have seen the signs, but I was too happy, too naive, too trusting." Key emotional beats. Deep nostalgia and connection to deceased father. Pure joy of achievement, subtle growing unease, false sense of security. Marcus starts noticing strange activities. It begins 6 months after he moves in. He's working from home one Tuesday when he hears machinery. Walking to his back windows, he sees survey crews on HOA common property near the lake. Men in hard hats, orange vests, setting up equipment. He calls the HOA office. The secretary, Jennifer Park, sounds nervous. "Oh, that's just routine maintenance assessment, Mr. Wellington. Nothing to worry about." But her voice wavers. Marcus knows that tone. He's been in enough corporate meetings to recognize when someone's reading from a script they don't believe. That weekend, at the mandatory quarterly HOA meeting, Marcus asks about the surveys. Victoria's smile tightens. "Simply updating our property records, Marcus. Standard procedure every 5 years. But another resident, Diane Morrison, a retired lawyer, interjects. "That's odd, Victoria. We just did a full survey 3 years ago. I have the records." Victoria's expression hardens for just a flash, barely a second before the smile returns. "Diane, dear, you must be confused. That was a different type of survey." The way she says dear drips with condescension. The meeting moves on, but Marcus notices Victoria and her 2 board members, Robert Chang and Linda Prescott, exchange meaningful glances. Marcus does research. He discovers something chilling. In the HOA bylaws, buried in Section 47, subsection D, there's language about water resource management and community asset optimization. The language is deliberately vague, written by lawyers to create loopholes. He reaches out to Thomas Rodriguez again. Over beers on Marcus's dock, Thomas reveals more. 5 years ago, Victoria tried to turn the community pool into a tennis court complex. When residents fought back, 3 of the biggest opponents suddenly faced massive special assessments. All 3 had to sell. Victoria's nephew bought 2 of the properties at auction. "That's illegal," Marcus says. Thomas laughs bitterly. "Prove it. Everything Victoria does is technically legal. She's got lawyers who specialize in HOA law. They know every loophole, every pressure point." The section escalates when Marcus receives a certified letter. Special assessment. $15,000 for emergency lake maintenance and ecological preservation. The letter is 6 pages of technical jargon. Marcus is furious but pays it. He doesn't want to lose his property over this. Then comes the bombshell. 2 weeks later, another certified letter. This one announces an emergency special meeting about critical water quality issues affecting Lake Haven. The meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, when most working residents can't attend. Marcus takes a personal day to be there. Only 12 of the 47 residents show up. Victoria stands at the podium, PowerPoint ready, flanked by a man in an expensive suit who's introduced as environmental consultant Dr. Richard Blackwood. Dr. Blackwood presents alarming data: algae blooms, bacterial counts, dangerous levels of contamination. The solution? Temporary drainage and remediation. 6 months, they say, for everyone's safety. Marcus challenges the data. "I swim in this lake every morning. I haven't seen any algae blooms. Can we get an independent assessment?" Victoria's smile vanishes completely. "Marcus, are you suggesting Dr. Blackwood, with 30 years of experience, is lying?" The other board members pile on. Robert Chang, "We have a responsibility to all residents." Linda Prescott, "We can't risk lawsuits if someone gets sick." The vote happens. With only 12 residents present and Victoria controlling 5 proxy votes, the remediation is approved 9-3. Marcus leaves that meeting with ice in his stomach. He calls Diane Morrison that evening. She's already ahead of him. I pulled Dr. Blackwood's credentials. He's legitimate, but his firm has consulted on 17 HOA disputes in the past 5 years. 17 times, lakes or common areas were drained or removed, and 17 times developers bought the land within a year. End this section with Marcus standing on his dock late at night, staring at the water. In the distance, he sees Victoria's mansion lit up, her silhouette in the window, phone to her ear. I realized then that this wasn't about lake maintenance. This was about money. My lake, my dream, was standing between Victoria and a fortune. Marcus wakes up one morning to the sound of massive machinery. It's 6 a.m. on a Monday. He rushes outside in his robe to find enormous pumps being set up at the lake's edge, huge pipes running toward drainage areas, construction crews everywhere. He runs down to the site supervisor, a weathered man named Jake Morrison, no relation to Diane. What the hell is happening? Jake shows him the work order, official HOA letterhead, Victoria's signature. Lake drainage and remediation, sir. We have full authorization. This is my property. The lake is on my property line. Jake looks uncomfortable. Actually, sir, according to this survey, he unrolls a map. The lake is entirely on HOA common property. Your property line ends at the current high water mark. Marcus feels the ground shift beneath him. That's impossible. My deed clearly states lakefront property with water rights. You'll need to take that up with the HOA board, sir. I'm just doing my job. Marcus runs back to his house, tears through his files. He finds his deed, his title insurance, his survey from when he bought the place. Everything clearly shows he has lakefront access and shared water rights. He calls Patricia Chen, his real estate agent. She sounds panicked. Marcus, I don't know what to tell you. The documents I gave you came straight from the title company. Everything was legitimate. Was? Marcus catches the past tense. Long pause. I got a letter last week from Victoria's lawyer. They're claiming there was an error in your deed. They're saying a new survey shows different boundaries. Marcus feels rage building. Patricia, that's fraud. I know, she whispers. But they have lawyers. I'm a single agent. I can't fight this. Marcus hangs up and immediately calls a real estate attorney, Mitchell Sanders. The consultation is brutal. Mitchell reviews everything. Marcus, technically they can't change your deed without your consent. But HOAs have immense power over common areas. If they can argue the lake is entirely common property and not part of your deeded land, they can do what they want with it. But I have water rights. Water rights to a lake that no longer exists aren't worth much. And if the lake is drained for remediation, during that time they can legally do whatever they want with the dry lake bed, including selling it. The next weeks are a nightmare. Marcus watches helplessly as his lake drains. Every day the water level drops. Fish die by the thousands, their bodies rotting in the receding water line. The smell is horrific. The beautiful lake becomes a muddy crater. Residents are furious. Thomas Rodriguez organizes a petition. Diane Morrison files legal challenges. But Victoria is always one step ahead. She produces more expert opinions, more environmental data, more legal justifications. Marcus discovers something worse. He's not alone. He tracks down previous residents who fought Victoria. There's Margaret Chen, no relation to Patricia, who lost her property 3 years ago after special assessments bankrupted her. There's David Jackson, whose home was foreclosed after he refused to pay what he called illegal fees. Margaret tells Marcus over the phone, her voice hollow. She's systematic. First, she targets properties she wants. Then she manufactures crises, assessments, violations, anything. She has a developer friend, Harrison Webb, who buys properties at auction for pennies on the dollar. They renovate and flip them, or they redevelop. Victoria gets kickbacks. Why didn't anyone go to the police? Everything she does is technically legal. HOA law is so complex, so full of loopholes. Unless you can prove explicit bribery or fraud, and I mean documents, recordings, smoking gun evidence, prosecutors won't touch it. Marcus starts documenting everything. He sets up security cameras, he records board meetings, he creates spreadsheets tracking every financial transaction he can access through public HOA records. Then comes the crushing blow. He receives a notice. Special assessment for lake drainage costs $47,000, his share based on property value and proximity to the lake. He can't pay it. He's already drained his savings on the previous assessment and legal fees. Victoria knows this. At the next board meeting, she announces with fake sympathy, "Unfortunately, Marcus Wellington is in arrears on his assessments. Per our bylaws, if payment isn't received within 30 days, the HOA must place a lien on his property." Marcus stands up, shaking with rage. You planned this. All of this. The drainage, the assessments, everything. You want my property. Victoria's mask slips for just a moment. Her eyes flash with something cold and triumphant. Marcus, your paranoia is showing. This is about community safety. If you can't afford to live here, perhaps Lake Haven isn't the right fit for you. The room is silent. Even residents who support Marcus can't meet his eyes. They're terrified of being next. End this section with Marcus sitting in his empty, drained lakefront property, looking at the muddy crater where his dream once existed. His phone rings. It's a lawyer for Harrison Webb Development, making an unsolicited offer to buy his property. Way below market value, but given your situation, it's quite generous. Marcus hangs up without responding. That's when I knew. This wasn't just corruption. This was a coordinated attack, and I was losing. Key emotional beats, betrayal and powerlessness, rage transforming into determination, building alliance with other victims, hitting rock bottom. The dark moment before the turn. Marcus refuses to surrender. If they want war, he'll give them war, but he needs ammunition. He starts with public records. Days at the county courthouse going through filings, deeds, development permits. He creates a massive timeline wall in his home office, connecting dots with red string like a detective in a crime thriller. The pattern emerges clearly. Every 18 months for the past decade, properties in Lake Haven get targeted, special assessments, violations, environmental issues, and every time, Harrison Webb Development ends up acquiring the properties within a year. Marcus reaches out to a journalist, Sarah Kim, who works for a regional investigative news outlet. She's skeptical at first. HOA disputes are notoriously hard to make interesting. They're complex, legally murky. This isn't a dispute, Marcus says. This is organized corruption. I can prove it. He shows her his research. 6 hours later, Sarah is convinced. This is bigger than I thought. I need time to investigate properly. Meanwhile, the HOA moves forward with their lien. Marcus has 2 weeks before they can initiate foreclosure proceedings. He needs a miracle. The miracle comes from an unexpected source. Jennifer Park, the HOA secretary. She shows up at Marcus's door late one night, terrified, looking over her shoulder. I can't do this anymore, she says, crying. Victoria made me falsify documents. The lake testing results, they were fabricated. Dr. Blackwood never actually tested the water. Victoria paid him to create fake reports. Marcus records everything she says, with her permission. She brings documents, emails, financial records, communications between Victoria and Harrison Webb that clearly show their scheme. Why are you doing this? Marcus asks. Jennifer breaks down completely. My daughter has leukemia. I needed this job for the insurance. Victoria knew that. She used it against me. Do what I say or find another job. Those were her exact words. But I can't. I can't keep being part of destroying people's lives. Marcus hugs her while she cries. You're doing the right thing. Armed with Jennifer's evidence, Marcus and Diane Morrison file a formal complaint with the State Attorney General's office. They also file an emergency injunction to stop the foreclosure and halt any sale of the lake property. Victoria retaliates immediately. She releases a statement to all residents claiming Marcus is a disgruntled individual making baseless accusations, and that Jennifer Park was terminated for stealing from HOA funds. It's a lie, but it's effective. Many residents believe it. The pressure intensifies. Marcus starts receiving threatening letters, anonymous, untraceable. Drop this or face consequences. His car gets keyed. Someone spray paints "liar" on his garage door. Thomas Rodriguez admits he's scared. Marcus, I support you, but I have grandkids. If Victoria knows I'm helping you, I understand, Marcus says. And he does. He's asking people to risk everything. Rakim's investigation goes deep. She discovers that Victoria's late husband was a real estate developer who left her with massive debts. The HOA president position, which Victoria has held for 12 years through manipulated elections, became her way to pay off those debts through kickbacks from Harrison Webb. Your property, Thomas's property, Diane's property, any property Harrison wants. We've done this 17 times successfully. The lake drainage was brilliant, if I say so myself. Environmental emergencies give us unlimited authority. And the test results? She laughs. Please. No one actually reads environmental reports. Dr. Blackwood is on retainer. He produces whatever results we need. Marcus has it all on recording. He stays long enough to get explicit discussion of kickbacks, property manipulation, and the entire scheme. When he leaves, his hands are shaking, but he has everything. End this section with Marcus meeting with Sarah Kim and a lawyer from the Attorney General's office. They listen to the recording. The AG lawyer's eyes widen. Mr. Wellington, this is fraud, conspiracy, possibly RICO charges. You just handed us a slam dunk case. For the first time in months, Marcus allows himself to hope. So what happens now? The lawyer smiles grimly. Now we take them down. The Attorney General's office moves fast. Within a week, they execute search warrants on Victoria's home, the HOA offices, Harrison Webb Development, and Dr. Blackwood's consulting firm. Marcus watches from his property as law enforcement vehicles surround Victoria's mansion. She's led out in handcuffs, screaming about her rights, demanding her lawyer. The mask is completely off now. She looks like exactly what she is, a cornered criminal. Robert Chang and Linda Prescott are also arrested. Jennifer Park gets immunity in exchange for testimony. The local news coverage is explosive. Sarah Kim's investigative piece runs on the front page. HOA president's decade-long conspiracy, how one woman stole millions through property manipulation. The details are shocking even to Marcus, who lived through it. Victoria and Harrison Webb ran the scheme across 5 different HOAs in 3 counties. Over 60 families were affected. Total financial impact: over $20 million in stolen equity and forced sales. The community is in chaos. Emergency HOA meetings are called. The remaining board members resign. The property management company terminates their contract, claiming they had no knowledge, though Marcus suspects they knew or should have known. Residents who believed Victoria's lies about Marcus now approach him with apologies. Some are genuine, ashamed they didn't see the truth. Others are clearly just covering themselves, worried about their own liability. Thomas Rodriguez breaks down crying when Marcus visits him. "I should have fought harder. I should have stood with you from the beginning." "You were protecting your family," Marcus says. "I understand that. But you risked everything. You lost everything." "Not everything," Marcus says, looking at the muddy crater that was once his lake. "Not yet. Because there's still a problem. The lake is still drained. The property is still destroyed. Victoria's arrest doesn't automatically restore what was taken." Marcus meets with a team of environmental lawyers and engineers. The remediation that Victoria authorized was completely unnecessary. The lake was healthy. But the damage from the drainage is real. Fish populations decimated. Aquatic plants destroyed. The ecosystem collapsed. Restoring the lake will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and take years. Harrison Webb's company, facing criminal charges, files for bankruptcy protection. The preliminary development plans for the shopping complex are canceled, but the company's assets are frozen. No money for restoration. The HOA itself is broke. Victoria embezzled most of the reserve funds. What remains barely covers basic operations. Marcus faces a devastating reality. He won the legal battle but might still lose his dream. His lakefront property is now craterfront property. Property values have plummeted. He can't sell without taking a massive loss. That's when something unexpected happens. The community comes together. Diane Morrison organizes a town hall. "Victoria victimized all of us. Some lost their homes. Marcus lost his dream. But we're still here. We're still a community. And we can fix this." Residents vote to approve a voluntary assessment, not mandatory but voluntary, to fund lake restoration. Families contribute what they can. Some give $100, some give $1,000. Sarah Kim's news coverage goes viral. A GoFundMe campaign is started by people across the country who were moved by Marcus's fight against HOA corruption. It raises $34,000 in 3 weeks. Local environmental groups volunteer labor and expertise. The state environmental agency, embarrassed by Dr. Blackwood's fraudulent reports, contributes grant funding for restoration. Marcus stands at what will become the water's edge again, watching volunteers and contractors work. Diane stands beside him. "You know, when you first moved here, I thought you were naive, too trusting." "I was," Marcus admits. "No," Diane says. "You believed in something. You believed people should be able to live in peace, enjoy their property, trust their neighbors. That's not naive, that's hope. And hope is what saved us." The restoration takes 9 months. Marcus documents every stage. The crater is cleaned, new drainage systems installed, proper ones this time. native plants reintroduced, and finally the pumps are reversed. Water begins flowing back into the lake basin. It takes 3 weeks for the lake to refill. Marcus watches it every day, the water rising inch by inch, reclaiming the crater, transforming mud back into reflection. The day the lake reaches full level again, the community throws a celebration. Over 100 people gather at the shore, residents, volunteers, lawyers, journalists, even some of the construction workers who originally drained it. Thomas Rodriguez gives a speech. "We almost let fear and corruption destroy us. One man's courage saved us. Marcus Wellington, this lake is named Lake Marcus now," the HOA board voted unanimously. Marcus is overwhelmed. He never wanted fame or recognition. He just wanted his dream. That evening, as the celebration winds down, Marcus sits on his rebuilt dock. The water isn't exactly as it was. It'll take years for the ecosystem to fully recover. But it's water. It's alive. It's hope. Sarah Kim sits beside him, notebook out. "So, Marcus, how does it feel?" He thinks about his father, about the promise at the graveside, about everything he went through. Bittersweet. I got my lake back, but I also saw how broken our systems are. HOAs have too much power and too little oversight. Victoria couldn't have done this without legal loopholes that let her. Are you going to keep fighting? Advocate for HOA reform? Marcus looks at the sunset reflecting on the water, his lake, his dream restored. "Yeah," he says quietly. "Yeah, I think I am." End this section with Marcus receiving a letter. It's from Margaret Chen, one of the previous victims. "Dear Marcus, I saw the news. You did what I couldn't. You fought and won. Because of you, I'm filing to reopen my case. Thank you for proving it's possible to fight back." Marcus pins the letter to his wall. It's the first of many he'll receive. 3 months after the lake is restored, the criminal trial begins. Marcus is the star witness. Taking the stand is terrifying. Victoria's defense lawyer is aggressive, trying to paint Marcus as a troublemaker who couldn't follow simple HOA rules. But the evidence is overwhelming. The recordings, Jennifer's testimony, financial records showing direct payments from Harrison Webb to Victoria, falsified environmental reports, patterns of property manipulation across multiple HOAs. The jury deliberates for only 6 hours, guilty on all counts: fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, abuse of authority. Victoria is sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $4.2 million in restitution. Harrison Webb gets 12 years. Robert Chang and Linda Prescott receive lighter sentences in exchange for cooperation. Dr. Blackwood loses his professional licenses and gets 3 years probation. But for Marcus, the real victory isn't the prison sentences. It's what happens next. His story sparks a national conversation about HOA reform. State legislators introduce bills to increase transparency, limit special assessments, require independent audits, and create easier paths for homeowners to challenge HOA decisions. Marcus testifies before the state legislature. "I'm not saying HOAs are inherently bad." Many Marcus testifies before the state legislature. "I'm not saying HOAs are inherently bad. Many are run well and improve communities. But the current system has too few checks and balances. When bad actors take control, homeowners have almost no recourse. That needs to change." The reforms pass. Marcus's law, as it becomes known, includes provisions for mandatory independent reviews of large assessments, term limits for board members, criminal background checks for board positions, and protections against retaliatory actions. Other states begin adopting similar legislation. Marcus becomes an accidental activist, speaking at community meetings, consulting with lawmakers, helping other victims fight corrupt HOAs. But he never forgets why he started this: the lake, the dream, the promise to his father. 1 year after the restoration, the lake is thriving again. Fish populations are recovering. Migrating birds have returned. The water quality exceeds all safety standards, real standards this time, tested by independent labs. Marcus meets someone special, Elena Rodriguez, Thomas's daughter, who came to Visay's father and stayed to help with the lake restoration. She's an environmental scientist, divorced, with a 10-year-old son named Alex. They bond over shared love of the lake and shared experience of fighting for what's right. She understands what he went through in ways few others can. Their relationship develops slowly, naturally, Evenings on the dock, teaching Alex to fish, watching sunsets together. It's not just romance, it's healing. Thomas gives his blessing in the most emotional scene of the entire story. My daughter deserves someone who doesn't give up, who fights for what's right even when it costs everything. That's you, Marcus. Marcus proposes to Elena on the dock at sunset, Alex helping him set up candles and roses. She says yes through tears. You rebuilt this lake, you rebuilt this community, and you rebuilt yourself. I'd be honored to build a life with you. The wedding is held lakeside, the entire community attending. Diane Morrison officiates. She got ordained online for the occasion. Sarah Kim is there, working on a book about the case. Jennifer Park attends with her daughter, who's in remission now. Even some of the construction workers who initially drained the lake come to the wedding, apologizing for their role and celebrating its restoration. In his vows, Marcus talks about his father. Dad never got his lake house, but I think he's here today, in this water, in this community, in this new family I'm building. Dad, I kept my promise, and I found something even better than what I dreamed. But the story doesn't end with happily ever after. Marcus remains vigilant. He starts a nonprofit, the HOA Transparency Project. It helps homeowners understand their rights, identify corruption, and fight back against abuses. Elena runs the environmental consulting side, helping communities assess the real ecological impact of proposed HOA projects. They receive calls weekly from people across the country facing similar situations. Some they can help, some are too far gone, already lost to foreclosure or forced sales. Each case Marcus can't fix hurts. Each family he can't save reminds him of how close he came to losing everything. But each victory, and there are victories, validates the fight. 2 years after the lake restoration, Marcus and Elena have a daughter. They name her Hope. Marcus takes baby Hope down to the dock on her first birthday, the same dock where he almost lost everything, the same lake that was drained and then restored. Your name isn't just a name, he tells her, knowing she can't understand but needing to say it anyway. It's a reminder. Bad things happen. Corrupt people exist. Systems fail. But hope, real, stubborn, refusing to die hope, that's what changes things. That's what restores lakes and rebuilds communities and makes impossible dreams possible again. Elena joins them, Alex running ahead to fish off the dock. They stand together as a family, looking at the water that represents so much more than just property value or recreation. The final scene is Marcus receiving one last letter. It's from Victoria, in prison. He debates, but he does. The letter is surprising, not apologetic exactly, but different. Mr. Wellington, I don't expect forgiveness. What I did was wrong and I'm paying the price. But I want you to know something. You won not because you had better lawyers or more money. You won because you refused to stop caring. I stopped caring about people years ago. They became transactions, property, obstacles. You never stopped seeing them as people, as neighbors, as community. That's why you won. That's why you'll keep winning. V. Ashford. Marcus folds the letter carefully. He doesn't know if Victoria means it or if it's manipulation even from prison. Maybe both. But it doesn't matter. This was never about Victoria. It was about the lake, the community, the principle that ordinary people deserve to live in peace, without fear of corruption. The story closes with Marcus on his dock at sunset, the same image from the beginning but transformed. He's older now, wiser, scarred by the battle but strengthened by it. His family around him, his community restored, his dream not just rebuilt but expanded beyond what he originally imagined. A loon calls across the water, the same sound from his first morning in the house years ago. Marcus closes his eyes and smiles. We did it, Dad. We really did it. The screen fades to black over the peaceful lake, completely restored, alive with fish, and a loon calls across the water, the same sound from his first morning in the house, years ago. Marcus closes his eyes and smiles. We did it, Dad. We really did it. The screen fades to black over the peaceful lake, completely restored, alive with fish and birds and possibility. Final title card. Thanks to Marcus's fight and the subsequent HOA reforms, over 2,000 families have successfully challenged corrupt HOAs. The fight continues. Key emotional beats: justice fully served, systemic change achieved, personal happiness restored and expanded, legacy established, full circle moment connecting to beginning. Bittersweet acknowledgement that work continues, ultimate message of hope and resilience.